Hey there, welcome back to another episode of our Pearls of Wisdom project. Really great to have you with us again. If this is your first time, it's great to have you here. Before we get into it, we want to mention the sensitivity of the topic that we're discussing today. So it's just a disclaimer that it might be emotionally disturbing, as we will be touching on quite sensitive topics, including suicide. So our prayer is to foster a compassionate and understanding dialogue, while really being able to be respectful for everyone's experiences and feelings. So we thank you for your courage in being able to listen to our talk today, and feel free to potentially switch it off if it is a bit too sensitive for you at the moment. So thanks for joining us, and great to have you here. We're very blessed and lucky to have Mrs. Katrina Tsaftaropoulos with us today. If you could just give us an introduction about yourself, that would be great.
Hello, yes, thank you very much, Yanni. My name's Katrina Tsaftaropoulos. I'm 67 years old. I'm married with 3 children. And I'm a mental health presenter with Black Dog and Beyond Blue.
Lovely. Now, we're going to obviously go into some pretty important topics today. And, we know that there's a stigma, these days, particularly in our culture, and in our, religious communities. And I think it's important for us to, talk about the love of the late son, and to just understand a little bit about your experience, and as much as you can tell us about that would be great.
Thank you. Yes.
The first part would be for us to tell us a little bit about him, also the cause of his passing. I think that would be good for us to understand before we get into.
Okay, Yanni. He was 27 years old. He's my middle son. His name was George. He was an avid soccer player. He captained the team. They won the Australian Championship, so he was quite talented. He was an architectural draftsman. And he was quite talented in school as well. Had a great range of friends. It was really well loved. The alpha male, as you'd like to say. Yeah. He was 27 when he took his own life after 10 years of depression. He wanted to know the reason why. He had a lot of things go wrong in his life. And if you ever heard of death by 1,000 cuts, it's not just one thing, it's a lot of things. So one cut won't kill you, but after 1,000, it will do you in. So he had a lot of things going on in his life from a very early age. From 17, he had his first girlfriend hang herself, and then the second girlfriend cut her throat. One of his best mates died in an accident. Then he had his swine flu came to Australia, if you remember, back in the 90s. Our kids were the first ones to get sick with it, and we lost our goalkeeper to the swine flu. And my son was actually in the hospital with him in intensive care. We had about 3 months out of there. It was really, really a horrible period. But he held him for 5 hours while he passed away, and that was a terrible stigma, terrible trauma for a young man to deal with. And the last thing that happened to him, we got into a bad relationship with a girl. And it eventually got too much for him. So after 10 years of depression without saying anything to anybody, he finally couldn't carry on and he took his own life.
Thank you for sharing that with us. And we're so sorry to hear about his passing. And we're really grateful for you being able to open up about that today, and to have this conversation with us.
And I appreciate you asking me here to have this conversation. I think it's very important.
I think it's oftentimes that there's, obviously, as we mentioned, a stigma behind it, and breaking that barrier is what we really want to do here. And I'm sure you'll be able to help many people that are listening.
I hope so, because the awareness to get around the stigma, to get around the taboo, because the more people know, the more they're aware, the more help they can get. They're not afraid to put their hands up and ask for help. And if that happens, then more lives will be saved. Because if they're afraid to put their hands up and say, I've got a mental health problem, they're not going to ask for help. They're not going to go, because they're going to be labelled, they're going to be judged. So they're not going to ask for help, and the consequences can be very tragic when they don't.
And do you notice that there is a strong stigma, particularly in our Greek community as well?
Very much so, very much so. It's been 12 years since my son passed. I forgot to say that, it was in 2012. When we first got into our grief and our loss, the Greek church was not at all, in society, the Greek society especially, was not accepting. They were not supportive, very judgmental, very judgmental. They judged my son, and when I developed mental health issues after the loss of my son, I was ostracised. My family, my community, my society didn't even talk to me for 6-7 months. I think they were afraid that they might catch something off me. They didn't know how to deal with grief. They didn't know how to deal with me, so they avoided me.
Sorry, after you.
No, that's the sort of awareness we need to raise, because when people are suffering mental health, that sort of reaction is not going to help. We need the support. We need the understanding. We need people to be there for us.
Do you think it's uncharted territory, particularly for our community?
A few years ago, I would have said yes. But since last year, I've started making presentations in the Greek church to the community and to the youth groups. We're starting to open up. I think our priests are becoming more liberal, and they're beginning to understand the concept of suicide. And not that it's to treat it as a disease, an illness, not to treat it as something else. And being an illness, it can be treated. Like if you break your arm, you go to a doctor. If you have a mental break, you go to a different doctor. There shouldn't be any stigma or taboo in doing this. So I think in the last couple of years, the Greek church is opening up to that fact. And I think it's way, way past due.
And of course, obviously when those situations happen and there's sudden death, anger is such a strong emotion, and dealing with that grief. Do you think there's a way that we can be constructive rather than destructive when we're dealing with that?
That's a hard question, because everyone takes the grief and loss differently. My family all took anger. They all were angry at George for what he did, how he broke up the family union, what he did to me. I didn't do that. I didn't go down that path. Because I developed mental health myself, I understood what he'd gone through. I understood the pain and the suffering, and that he needed to end his own suffering. He didn't want to cause suffering for us. So I understood. Others didn't. They went the angry way. Now, for me, anger is not a good emotion. It's not helping the person. It's not helping the people around. I think we can channel that anger into more positive things, because it's a negative emotion. We need to be positive. So channel that anger into getting things done. That's what I did. I turned my grief into getting a positive reaction, taking that deep emotion and wanting to open up, raise awareness, approaching newspapers and doing presentations, radio, TV. I did everything I could. That's the way I channeled my anger, my feelings to a positive way. And I think most people should do that as well. Try to find some sort of positive outlet that will help rather than damage.
Why do you think people might be afraid to discuss these kinds of issues, particularly suicide, and how can we encourage awareness?
People are always going to be afraid of talking about suicide and mental health. And every time I've mentioned, they ask me, how did your son die? I said, he took his own life. You can see them shutting down. They don't want to discuss it. They don't want to know about it. That to me is, something we need to address. And that's awareness, knowledge. If we get out into the society, into the people, I do presentations with kids at school, and I give them the knowledge, understand what mental health is, so they know what they're going through, they understand. Then to understand that there's help available out there, where to go for help, what to do. Also, how to treat someone who has mental health, how to ask the questions, how to be there for them. All these things are very important. Now, the second part of your question, I forgot.
Encouraging awareness, which you've
encouraging awareness, yeah. That's one way of doing it. And I think in the last few years, mental health has come out more into the open. Beyond Blue and Lifeline have been doing a lot of things to, get the society moving with that. I think all this fundraising we do and getting people involved in events and things like that also very, very helpful. My son was an avid soccer player, like I said. So my way of doing that was I had a memorial cup for him every year. And I would invite 200 to 300 teams around Sydney to come and play. And we'd have thousands of people there. So it'd be a fundraiser for mental health, but also an awareness date. So all those people coming we'd give them a presentation, we'd give them, collateral to read and everything. And I think that is a major way of reaching everyone.
Using the tools available to you to really bring exposure to it and bring light to the problem.
Yes, and it is light to the darkness. We have a walk called Out of Darkness into the Light Walk. And it's a suicide march that we do every year. And we wear these bright yellow banners and we go out on the streets and we walk just for people to see and to acknowledge. because understanding is something very hard to come by, Yanni.
Mm.
Even my family don't understand.
Of course.
And because there's so many reasons that a person will take his own life.
Mm.
And, it's a hole. It's a very deep, dark hole to get into. And, like you can be depressed, you can be moody, you can be unhappy, but depression is one level completely below. You lose all hope, you lose that light, you lose all your joy in your life. And you find that everything is so hard that it's easier to go because the suffering is so much. This is what we've got to understand. People need support. They need that help.
And that's a good point. I mean, is mental health, I guess the question is, would mental health be the main reason for suicide, or could it be, social isolation, financial issues, lack of trust, all those other layers, and what can we do to, better manage those additional things?
A lot of different layers, but I'd say suicide would be the most. But we're talking about deaths. We might have a few thousand road accidents and alcohols and drug and everything. But if you add all those during the year, we lose more to suicide. Between 15 and 44, which is the kill zone, as they say, we're losing over 3,500 kids a year. That's one every 3 hours. It's a horrible toll. It's horrific. Yeah. And people don't know about it, Danny, because they don't talk about it. It's not in newspapers. It's not, widely known. This toll is the most important. Then you have all the other ones coming down the track. Financial problems, of course. There's a lot of debt. There's a lot of, homelessness and loneliness around it. That causes a lot of distress. But I find that I think suicide and depression are the main causes.
And do you think people struggle silently?
Oh, yes, most definitely. My son had depression for 10 years and he suffered and never said a word to me, Yanni. The only reason I found out exactly why he took his own life is he left me 15 pages. And a lot of parents and a lot of families don't have that. A lot of people cannot, leave notes and explain. And for them, it's a never-ending, well, what ifs and what we could have done. Why didn't we see and why didn't we help our child? The what ifs and the maybes, they eat you away. It's like an acid eating away in you. I didn't see it coming. I did not know. And it was a big shock to me as well. And I developed a lot of mental health issues because of that. I developed a lot of depression, post-traumatic stress too, from what I saw. And I couldn't accept that I didn't do anything to help my son. And this is, I'm still, I've been through a lot of psychologists and a lot of counselling, and I still carry a bit of that grief with me. But that's another thing I wanted to touch on. When you're in a situation like I was, awareness is one thing, understanding and having knowledge where to go for help, and putting up your hand and asking for help. What I always tell the kids at school, I tell them it's okay not to be okay. And it's okay to ask for help, to put your hand up and ask for help. And that's what I did, Yanni. I put up my hand and asked for help. And I went to counsellors and suicide, and then I went to support groups, and I went to everything I could to help myself so I could help others.
Is there any shame in putting your hand up?
No, not at all. Not at all. There is a stigma. There is. Because people are going to label you. My neighbours didn't talk to me for 6 months. My own family withdrew. It's a cost. It came at a cost. But the cost of not putting your hand up and asking for help is a lot higher. That's why we lose our kids, because they're afraid to put their hand up and ask for help. But if we can make a subject we can talk about, we can raise awareness, and we can talk about things more often, that makes it easier for them to be able to put their hand up, Yanni. Because then they're going to know, oh, it's okay, people are understanding, I'm going to ask for help.
Particularly if people are letting it build up, and it could just fester and just worsen over time.
It does. It's like a cancer eating you away. It really is. I don't know how my son lasted 10 years, to tell you the truth, because I had depression for a few years. And second year after I lost him, I nearly took my own life. Now, I'm saying that as a Christian and a person who believes in the faith and the church, but I lost all that. And there's nothing I could do to help myself at that stage.
Is there anything we can, apart from, the "Are you okay?" anything we can say or ask or signs that we can do to help those around us?
Signs to look for? Okay, things that, from experience, from what my son went through, these are all red flags to me, and I should have picked them up. And this is another reason why I've got all this guilt. I had all these red flags and I didn't know anything about it because I didn't have the knowledge to understand they were signs. Okay, so some of the things that we missed. He stopped going out. He stopped socialising. He stopped all his things that he was really happy with, enjoying his soccer and his gaming and everything. He locked himself up in the room and isolated himself for 6 months at a time. Lost a lot of weight. Resulted to gambling online, drinking. All these things were crutches to help because he couldn't control what was going on around him. Same with anorexia girls. They can't control what's happening around them or inside their mind, but they can control what goes into their body, and that's what they do, the starvation sort of thing. They're all signs, they're all red flags when a person's personality and his actions change so dramatically. He even got to the stage where he wasn't changing his clothes or bathing because he didn't have any sort of self-worth. He lost all that. And that should have been a red flag to me because he was like a clothes horse. He had the best clothes, the most expensive accessories, and he got to the stage where he wasn't even bathing. So what can you say?
What support can we provide in that situation? How can we be there for someone that's struggling?
First, you've got to know that they are struggling. And then what you asked before and I didn't answer, what can we say after we say, are you okay? Be there. You're not going to fix them, but be there for them, just shoulder for them to cry and to talk to. And if they do open up to you, then tell them where they can go for help. Offer the support online, with Beyond Blue, Black Dog, Lifeline. All these institutions have got enormous amount of collateral and information out there. There's a lot of online things for the children to access, and the kids are great with their computers, so they would probably do that. Offer help. Be there for them and follow it up. Just don't say hello and then
let it go and then that's it.
You've got to keep checking in with them and make sure that they've got a support group. I found the most important thing when I had my suicidal tendencies, I had a lifeline, 5 numbers I could call. So find 5 people that you can trust or whoever.
A network.
And the network, that network saved my life. I got down to the last person, they weren't there, but I rang the last person and they were there and that saved my life. So, it's just the connections.
Really have those people that you can rely on that will be there for you and help you through it.
Yes.
And not being ashamed to approach these people and
That's right.
say and make sure that, you can be there for them as well.
That's what you need. You need that support, because without it. And I'm surprised that my son did not have that network, but I was the closest one to him at that stage, and because he'd locked himself away from all his friends, he'd lost a lot of contact. I had a stroke a few months before he passed, so he saw that I was so sick and so much in pain that he didn't put me into that network. So,
I guess what's the best way for us to approach someone that has been affected by suicide or has someone close to them, for example?
Around every suicide, there are 14 people that are adversely affected. And this can cause more mental health struggles and even more suicides. I've documented cases such in Goulburn where that little boy took his life, 16 of his mates took their lives around him, so it was a cluster. What we can do, sorry, say again, I go off on a tangent.
How can we approach them best?
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, ask the question, as I say. Like, are you okay day? Which I think that should be every day, not just once a year. Yeah. Like Mother's Day and Father's Day, that should be every year. We should respect our parents, not just one day. But anyway, are you okay? Okay, all right. So they'll say no. Yeah, I'm fine. Don't stop at that. Yeah, ask them, how are you travelling? How's things going? Like, we've noticed a difference in you. Don't make it a negative thing. We've just noticed something different in you, like, how are you travelling? Is there anything that you want to talk to us about? Try not to make it a negative thing. Try not to make it feel like it's their fault. Try to make them think like, oh, you know, we're happy, we're here for you. Anything you want to talk to us about, we're open to hear, you know, and if you want us to help you in any way, make yourself open and available.
Going beyond that first step,
Yep.
and also just trying to normalize, you know, being able to be there for them and asking those questions constantly to make sure that you're
Constantly. It's not just a matter of one-off. You need to be continuously. Say for my son, for example, his workmates and his teammates and his schoolmates, they noticed there was a change. They noticed. They asked him, are you okay? He told them that he wasn't in some things. They never followed through, Yanni. They, because he never contacted them, they never followed through. And for the last 6 months of his life, he felt so cut off because no one was talking to him. They were expecting him to reach out, you know, that was the wrong way. And now that he's passed, they had so much guilt, Yanni, because they never followed through. They had to go to counselling themselves because they realised that they let him down.
So it's a matter of being proactive.
Definitely. You have to be proactive with everything. I think with my mental health, I was very proactive in getting help. And that's what's, you know, got me this far. Mind you, it's still a work in action. I'm still working on it. But once you lose your mental health, it's very hard to get back on an even footing. But you have to be proactive. You have to. People that are helping me were proactive helping me. The groups I went to, the people I saw. One group especially, the Compassionate Friends, it's a group of mothers that have lost their children. They took me under their wing and emotionally helped me. Well, psychologists were helping on a clinical basis, but the emotional help and support I got from the families. And then my friends, eventually, they rallied around me too, and they made sure that I wasn't alone. They made sure that I always had someone to go out with and talk to. So very proactive.
That's a very, very good point. Now, we're going to move on to a question about societal questions. And do you think, I guess today's society is quite different and things are changing rapidly. Do you think there's a lack of genuine love in society these days?
People love, right? It's very limited. You know, they've got their own little bubble. They love everyone in their little bubble, but everyone outside the bubble is very hard to, you know, spread that affection around. Not enough love in the world. Not enough. I found since losing my son, I've become more emphatic. I have empathy, I have compassion, I have a lot more love. And in saying that, by going to the church to Father Tsaftaropoulos, if I can mention his name, with the Greek Orthodox Church, he came to my house and he sat there, you know, weeks with me and my kids, and he helped me to get my faith back. He helped me to start praying again. He helped me to find that love. And that's an important thing, because once you can love yourself and forgive yourself, then you can help others as well. And love is all about giving, not taking. And our society is all just taking. We need to be able to open up and to love and to have compassion for other people.
And to be selfless, to put others before us.
Exactly. Good point. Thank you, Yanni.
No, that's it. Does prayer help?
Much, very, very much, very much. I read the Bible every night. I think there's a lot in there that is so pertinent to our lives at the moment. Faith, love, prayer. And I think it's all intertwined. I can't distinguish between. But yes, I do pray. I pray for the strength that I have. I pray that you know, God has mercy on us and helps us. You know, I pray for a lot of things. But basically, it's just to have that faith and that belief. And it's also helping to believe that I'm not going to cry my eyes out over my son, because I will see him again, Yanni. The church and the faith has given me that hope that in the end we will all be together again, because that's what the Bible said. And by giving me that hope, I have a comfort. That's a comfort for me, because I know I'll be together with my son in the end. When he first passed away, I was counting all the days, and I got up to 816 days it had been that I'd lost him. And I was moving further away from him, but with faith and with my prayer, I realised that I was actually moving towards him, not away. So, yeah, faith's changed my life. If I hadn't gone back to the church and I hadn't got that strength, and I think God has given me so much strength, He really has. I mean, to get up and talk in front of 900 people at one stage about the worst day of your life, the first time I did it, I walked off the stage and I vomited. I was so sick. But as you can see now, I can't stop talking. I think God put me in a path. He set me on this journey I didn't organise all this. You know, dominoes fell. He put me on a path, and he gave me the strength to be able to do it. Gave me the courage, the strength of faith to be able to reach out and to help others. And after the first two things fell into my lap, I thought, well, this is the way God wants me to do. So that's what I'm going to do. You know, and I don't think I would have been able to do it by myself.
So we'd say, I guess the faith is a pillar in our struggle as well.
Absolutely. It's the pillar holding everything up.
Of course.
If you didn't have that, we'd be flat on the ground, wouldn't we?
So it's vital for us to really turn to God in that time of need.
Yes.
You know, as part of one of our strategies, but to really give ourselves up to Him and His mercy and love.
And understand the Bible, understand what God has done for us and what He's continuing to do for us, what Jesus' sacrifice was, how we have to accept that and to be able to embrace that, so we know that we have life after death, if you could call it that. That His death will allow us to reach that paradise, to reach that heaven, because without His sacrifice, we would be drowning in our sins. So yes, we have to be grateful every day. That's another thing I want to say. Every day you have to be grateful. I have to find grateful things every single day. My faith is one thing. I'm grateful for my church, my group, my family, and for you for bringing me here to talk tonight. Every opportunity I have to be grateful every day.
And also our church community too. You know, we can rely on them in times of need, but also have that support as well when we need it, and trying to rely on those people.
At the beginning, I didn't have that, Yanni, so that's a little bit of a stepping stone for me. Recently, yes, but at the beginning, I didn't have that sort of support, which is a shame, because I really needed it. And I think that's one way our church has to be more proactive, to identify its parishioners that are suffering, to be able to do presentations to learn, and from that knowledge to help other people. Because without that, the parishioners will going to death in silence. They're not getting the help they need. And I think these sort of presentations you're doing and the ones I've done in the church, I think this is the first stepping stone. Yeah.
We want to make the community be able to discuss these topics and have these conversations to really shed light on this topic and these issues, to make it, like we said, breaking those barriers, I think is important in our community.
If we can talk about it, then that stigma will disappear.
Yeah.
And the fact is that people don't want to talk about it, even now. It's hard. It really is hard. Whenever you start a conversation with mental health, you can see people just turning right off. We've got to make it more of.
Well, we hope that people listening will be grateful for all your insights. Particularly, dealing with that loss is so important, as many people, grieve. I mean, are there any activities or practices that helped you in coping with that loss?
A lot of things, because I went to a lot of different organisations. I got a tool from every place I went to. I put it in my toolbox. So I have my tools. I know my triggers, and I know what to do when I get my triggers. COVID was a massive trigger, so that brought me back down again. I've been through mental health programs now 2 or 3 times in the last 11 years, so it's an ongoing business. But the tools I need and the tools I use myself at home rather than going to professionals, deep breathing is one. This is what I was doing before I came here. I was doing some deep breathing. I'm laughing, but it's not really a funny matter. But deep breathing helps to lower your blood rate, lowers your blood pressure, and lowers your heart rate as well. So that's a great way to calm yourself down when you're really stressed. Also meditation, to be able to sit in a quiet room to meditate. Try to focus on things, take your mind off. So if I was always crying over my son, my psychologist said, focus on something else for 10 minutes a day, and then you'll find that 10 minutes will become 15 and 20. So I doing handicrafts, because that was a way of focusing my mind. Have you heard of diamond art? Have you heard of diamond art?
Yes, actually.
I'm great. I've got so much diamond art in the house.
Wow, that's really
I paint. I do I love writing. Writing is very cathartic because it helps you to, take those thoughts and put them into paper and then put that away. It's like you're taking it out of your mind. All those sort of things is very helpful. Exercise. Exercise is very good. Exercise releases all the good endorphins in your brain and all the good, feelings in your brain. So that's really good. And I haven't been able to exercise for a few months, so I'm quite overweight. But eating well, sleeping well, there's another two things that's important. You've got to get a good night's sleep, you've got to have good nutrition as well.
Taking care of yourself.
Yeah, taking care of yourself. Stay away from drugs and alcohol and all those sort of things where people use them as crutches.
As an escape.
As an escape.
But at the end of the day, it's just dragging them down.
It's not helping. No, it's not helping. You're just exchanging one set of problems for another.
Doesn't actually get to the root cause of the problem.
That is the problem. You have to get to the root cause of the problem. And my depression, I needed to refocus my mind because it was like 24 hours on my son. I would be just spending all my night in my room crying over my son's photos, talking about my son. It got to the stage where my other children said to me, and this is what woke me up, Yanni, they said to me, we don't exist in your eyes. We are invisible to you because you're drowning in your grief and all you think about is your son. So I had to refocus that and bring back the feeling that I had and the love that I had for my children, and then show them that love. And that's another important thing. They knew I loved them, but because I wasn't showing it, they felt hurt and alienated. So, yeah, it all comes round.
Yeah. It's a matter of having that awareness, that we need to act on it. It will, help ourselves as best we can, and speak up is important.
Very important. Help yourselves, help speak up, and then help others. That's the last thing I was going to say that helped me, honey. My major thing that saved my life was my volunteering. Joining the associations of Beyond Blue, Black Dog and Lifeline, volunteering my time, doing fundraising, doing presentations at schools. I've done 11 years and I've spoken to literally thousands of kids in every school in South Sydney. This gave my mind... It gave my mind a way to help others, and that helped me. It gave my son a legacy that I could honour him. With every life I could save was an honour to my son. But it also helped me in my emotional journey as well, because it gave me something to get up every day for and to strive for. Volunteering and helping other people is a very, very good cause, and it's also very helpful for them and for you. It's just showing the love, isn't it? It's giving what you've got inside.
And it comes back to that point of it. Being loving and sharing that love with others.
Exactly.
Being a beacon of light.
I try. Maybe you have to tone me down a little bit because I'm a little bit too bright, but I wasn't always like this. I was drowning in the duck. It is a process. It is a process. It's a long process too. Why are you still grieving, they say to me. He's been gone 12 years. You don't get over loss. You don't get over grief. You just learn to carry it with you. You carry it with you and you just learn to live around it. And to me, I'll always remember my son every day. There's not been a day that I haven't thought of him or cried over him, but I don't let that destroy me. I let that give that fuel my energy to improve and help others.
Do you think there's a timeline for grief?
Yeah, everyone said that to me. It took me 10 years to take my black clothes off. Greeks, naturally, we do that. It's just part of our traditions, I think. Not a good thing. But again, you can't say there's a timeline on grief. That's a personally very unique thing. Everyone grieves in their own way, and everyone grieves in their own time. It took me 10 years to take off the black, not because people were telling me to wear black, but because I didn't feel like I'd take it off. When I wore another colour, it made me feel very uncomfortable, very unhappy. So it's very unique. So you take your grief and you go along that journey at your own pace, one day after another, one step after another. You can't let other people dictate to you how to grieve. My family didn't grieve, Yanni. My children, my other boys, his brothers and husband did not grieve at all. They took their grief, they put it in a box and they put it up on the shelf, and they did not follow through with their grief. And that came back to bite them because they didn't expunge it. You've got to live your life grief and go through it. And the more you grieve, it's because you love so much and you had something so important in your life that was worth that grief. So for me to say I'm not grieving anymore means I'm not loving anymore, and that's never going to happen, Yanni, because I love my child to the day I die and beyond.
So I guess that's a good point, because a lot of people have a tendency to bottle up or bottle, their issues, whatever it might be. Grief being one of them. How can we avoid, being in that situation? It could be easy to just chuck it in a bottle, put the lid on it and throw it away. How can we avoid, I guess, going down that path?
our society, like they do the funeral, they do the 40 days, and then people just disappear. That's happened to me. You know, like I had the house full of people, thousands of people for 40 days, and then after that everyone disappeared. And they went on there with their lives and thought that I'd be okay. But that's not right. The way we can help a person grieving is to help be there for them with their grief and understand that their grief is a very long process and that we have to acknowledge the person that has died. I have my family, my friends don't even talk about him. You know, like he's not in the time frame anymore. You have to acknowledge a person's grief. You have to let them understand that it's okay to grieve and it's okay to cry. And if we don't acknowledge that, how can we help them?
Just being able to be there for them and to, you know, be empathetic to what they're going through and acknowledging that.
Empathetic, very much so. Be understanding, not to be judgmental or critical of the way people grieve, but also help them, because grief is a place to travel through, not to stay. They need to be, if it's self-destructive, they need to be able to help them to get out of, you know, that grief. Show them ways to go forward in life, but you have to be there for them, and you have to have that compassion and love to be able to do that. Because a lot of my friends fell away on the road after 11 years because they could not handle my grief. They could not show the emotional support that I needed all that time, because to support a person that's grieving is very difficult, Yanni. It's very stressful. And I don't blame my friends, you know. They had a couple of years and they couldn't do it anymore. But at least they were there for me for that. So
it is, just makes it. And you mentioned some good points about, you know, the church community and our fellowship and the difficulty of having that support. I mean, what can we do to facilitate, you know, those meaningful connections within our church community and within other people there to, you know, really build on those relationships?
We need to get more people like me. Sorry, we need to do what you're doing now. Interviews, opening up, presentations like I was doing for the youth in the churches. Get speakers in. Get professional speakers in too, from Black, Blue, Blonde, all that sort of thing, you know, the groups. Raise awareness within the church society. Once they have that awareness and that knowledge, then they can take that home and they can help themselves and help other people. We need to get that into churches. At the moment, up to last year, I had never done a church presentation. I had never spoken to a religious group at all. And I think that was really wrong. You know, I think our priests nowadays are becoming more open to the fact that it is an illness and it needs to be addressed, and that awareness is the way to reach it. Once you make people aware, then you give them the information of where to go for help and how to go for help. It's like dropping a rock into a pool, right? The ripples will travel far and wide. We need to be that rock. We need to drop that rock in to begin with.
Yeah, because people will be more willing if they know that, you know, you're there as a support mechanism. They'll be able to open up and, you know, really address the issues if you're there and you're open about it.
Yeah, look, it's really hard. I've lost a lot of people in my life, and I know a lot of people that have lost children from suicide. They don't get up and talk about it. You know, it's hard for me to do so, but I found that by doing so I've helped myself, but I reached them on an emotional level. And this is what my crux is. I'll get up there and I'll show them my son's photo. I'll give them an emotional speech. You can throw facts at people 24 hours a day. It's not going to help. But if you reach them on an emotional level, like I'm talking to them about my son and telling everything he went through, that affects them. I see students break down and cry because I've reached them. And I know they understand, you know, and they'll take that with them as a remembrance. I was in hospital a little while ago, and one of the nurses there, I know I talk too much, I distract, but he was one of my students from a few years back, and he remembered me 6 years down the track. Wow. And he came up and said, I still remember your speech. That's how you reach someone.
Connect with them.
Yeah, you make a connection. There's got to be an emotional connection. And I think if we can get people with life stories, and this is what it is, get people with life stories out and give that life story to people. I could be anyone's grandmother, you know, and people can relate to me. And that's how to reach people.
Being able to support them. I guess on that point, what would you say, in your opinion, makes a good person?
Makes a good person. Yeah. Okay, that is a quick. I saw that. I didn't know what to say. Okay, a good person. All right, well, I don't think there's anyone truly perfect in the world. Um, I think someone who has an open heart, who has an open mind, who has a strong faith, who has compassion, love, faith, kindness, someone who cares about others, someone who wants to do and help others more than they want to do them for themselves. Yeah, as I said, it's wide scope to be actually what I consider good. I think everyone's idea of good is different. Your idea of good would be what, Yanni?
Very similar.
Very similar. Okay, all right.
Which is a good thing. I guess you probably having humility and love for others around you, that selflessness is quite key as well, and being forgiving. And tell me
That's
about,
something I forgot.
yes, tell me about forgiveness. How important is forgiveness? And
Two things. Humility. I don't have that. I'm brash. I'm out there. I don't hide away, but I think that's a good thing. And the other part was forgiving. You have to forgive yourself first. I never forgave myself, and because I never forgave myself for not being there for my son, it hindered my growth and my healing. But also other people to forgive, and the church says to forgive and forget. I couldn't forget what other people had done to my son, but I have forgiven because God said if you don't forgive, you won't be forgiven. So I think it's very important in our society to be able to forgive other people's transgressions and mistakes and to accept that people are frail, they're weak, and they will make mistakes, and we will say things that hurt others. But, sometimes it's really hard to forget.
but we can do as much as we can, and that's the best we can do.
Yeah, Father Sophronia said to me, you need to forgive and forget. And I said, Father, look, I can forgive, but it's really hard for me to forget. And he says to me, keeping your faith strong and being able to show love and compassion, that will come in time.
Now, I want to ask about your son and maybe a positive light, one of your favourite memories about your son. If you're willing to share that with us.
Oh, most definitely. I'd love to talk about my son. I do that all the time. Yeah, he was a soccer player. So he played competition grade soccer. He played state soccer. In the end, he was just happy to play club soccer. So my favourite memory, being a club soccer mum, they won the grand final. He also won that night. The team won the trophy that hadn't been won for 45 years in our area. He won the highest goalkeeper. Michael won the best coach, and Alex won the highest, the best player award. So my three sons in front of the podium with all their awards, holding that cup, and me behind them with my arm around the three of them. That was the best moment, Yanya Gapimur. I had so much pride and so much love for my sons. And it was just a great achievement, and I was so happy for them. That would be the happiest moment of my life.
Proud soccer mum.
Very proud. I was proud of them in everything they did. I was very supportive in everything they did. They got to the stage where they didn't stop giving me invitations to go to the schools because I was always up the front with the camera, and they were embarrassing them. That was how proud I was.
No, thank you for sharing that. It's really lovely. Now, we touched on it before.
One more thing about my son. Sorry, I am bad, but my son had a really good heart. He was more generous and more giving than me. And it's a lesson I learned off him. He saved a lot of people, and he did a lot of good things in his life. He saved people from suicide. When his best mate died, he raised $26,000. And he buried his best mate and got a monument for him and paid for the hall and everything. He organised the whole funeral and he gave money to the parents as well. He did a lot of good things in his life. He was only 27, but he was an influence. He helped that girl that tried to commit suicide and the other one that did, and he was selfless in that regard. When anyone needed anything, he'd be the one to turn to. So that's another thing I'm very proud of.
Thank you for sharing that. Sounds like he did really great things for those around him and helped them. Those who influenced those around him.
Yes,
immensely.
He did. He did.
Now, when we're dealing with people that we might recognise have concerning mental state. We touched on it before, but I thought maybe we address it directly, the kind of questions we can ask and the way that we can approach someone that's maybe going through something and the best ways that we can be there for them.
I would, as I said before, ask if they're okay, but just don't leave it at that.
Yeah.
Say to them you've noticed a difference in their behaviour, a difference in the way they're reacting to everybody. And also, have a look and see how they're reacting with everybody else too. If they've closed themselves off from everyone and that's not normal for them, you can say,
Being alert.
Being alert, noticing differences in their opinion, their appearance, the way they act. Just mention to that, we've missed seeing you, we've missed doing things for you, you haven't called, we haven't been out, is there anything that we can help you with? Don't be judgmental on that fact. Turn around and say, we're here for you. We can, you want to talk about it or anything like that to us? Try to get them to open up.
Do you think people are maybe fearful of being too pushy or don't want to impose, and how can we just break that?
People don't want to hear it. If my son turned around and said to his friends, and he did, he said that I'm thinking suicidal thoughts and I'm having, a mental problems, they turned right off. They didn't follow through because people don't know what to say and what to do. As I said, you're not going to cure the person. Just tell them that we don't understand what you're going through, but we're here to help you in any way you can. And to point them in the direction if you can of where to go get help and what to do for help. But always be there for them and follow up, as we said before. But ask those questions. Is there anything we can do for you? We're here to help. Listen is a very important thing. Because we go out there, we think that we can are you okay? If that's a problem, we can do this. Just listen to them, what they're saying, and try to understand.
Because we might not be the most equipped, but we can all listen and we can all guide them in the right direction.
Once we understand what mental health is, without understanding and knowing the symptoms and knowing the signs, you're not going to be able to help the other person. So get the knowledge yourself, be understanding, and then, as you say, listen, be aware, and try to steer them in the right direction, because it's not only helping that way, but it's also opening up avenues for them. If you can tell them that 1 in every 4 people will develop a mental health problem in their lifetime, so it's very, very common. Try to remove that stigma and fear from them. Say, we can go together, we can go do this and do that, something like that. It's very helpful to be able to ease the path for them, because they're afraid.
Of course. What advice would you give to people that are maybe struggling with suicidal thoughts right now?
Okay. Having been there, this is going to be a purely my experience that I'm talking about. But you get to the point where you don't want to ask for help and you think there's no way out and that everyone else would be better off without you. And that's what I got to. I think the only thing that snapped me out of it would be what my son said to me, we're invisible to you. What I can do to help myself. Is that what you wanted to know?
Yeah, advice you to someone that's maybe going, having those thoughts.
Okay. Depression is it's a hole you fall into. So you need to help. You can't do it by yourself. It's the main thing I'd say to anybody. You need help. You can't do it by yourself, and you need professional help. It's not just a matter of picking up a book. You need professional help. So firstly, admit that you've got a problem. Secondly, put up your hand and ask for help. And go to the right places to ask for help. Your friends and your parents are not going to be able to help you. They'll support you, but you need to ask the right places for information, for help. Then follow through with that. It's like anything. When you get sick, you have a regimen to get well, don't you? Like with physio and all that sort of thing. Organise ongoing treatment for yourself. Pick up the tools, like I said before. Your triggers. Find tools that will help you with those triggers, so you have your toolbox ready there. So I think they're the most important things.
I think people struggle to admit that there is a...
Oh, definitely. Did I mention knowledge was an important thing to read up on what mental health is, so you know that what you've got and you can accept it. Admitting is the worst thing. As I said, 10 years my son did not admit to anyone that he had a mental health problem, so I couldn't even help him because I didn't know what was going on. I took him to all the doctors because I thought he was physically ill, but it wasn't. It was a mental illness. And not once did I even stop to think that there was a mental component, because I did not understand what mental health is. People are afraid to put their hand up, as I said before, because they're going to be judged. See, my son was afraid everyone's going to call him 6 bottles short of a dozen, that he was, crazy, loony, whatever. They're afraid of that. They're afraid of being alienated by society because they have a mental health problem. When we talk about mental health, people think of rubber rooms, and, that's not the case. There's so many different layers of different mental health problems. I mean, people can be anxious, can have stress and all that sort of thing. 1 in 4 people will have a mental health issue in their life, but it's just a matter of being able to understand, I don't know what else I can say in that regard, but he needs to, you need to be able to have the knowledge to understand. And I think raising awareness is the only way we're going to get that knowledge.
I think there's a perception of weakness associated with
Absolutely, especially with males. That's a very good question. 75% of the people we lose are men. Now, why is that, you might ask? Because men will not ask for help. It's a sign of weakness. We're strong, we're males, we don't have to. We don't cry, we don't show emotion, we don't ask for help. This is why we're losing young men. 75% of the loss is from young males. And, that's why when I go to schools, I mainly talk to the males of the group, because that's not the right thing. If you need help, you put your hand up and ask for help. It's not being weak. I actually tell them, okay, it's okay not to be okay, but it's brave to ask for help. It really is. To put your hand up and ask for help is a brave act, because you know you're going to be judged. And I think it's very brave to be able to do that. So,
especially because men are told you're used to solving your own problems.
Exactly.
And solving other people's problems. And that doesn't help us in situations where we can't. Having that, I guess, that honesty with ourselves, that we can't solve this problem ourselves potentially.
You have to be honest with yourself. You have to understand that you can't do it by yourself, and to accept firstly that you have a problem, know what the problem is, and then ask for help. My son in 10 years never put his hand up and asked for help. He knew he needed help, but he thought he could deal with it with himself. Because, he was the alpha male. He was the one that everyone else came to for help because he helped so many people. He didn't want to let everyone down. He didn't want to, be a burden to his family. And that was the most important thing for him, his family. So he let himself down.
You say it's important for us to know, for people to be aware, and maybe this is a message for everyone, that we aren't alone.
100%. That's what I say to them. That's what I say. It's so common. There's so many people suffering mental health, and we are not alone. We are definitely not alone. There is help out there, and there is help that you can reach. And by not helping yourself, then you're leaving yourself open to, worse things. I think knowing that it's common, knowing that there is help out there, knowing that you can put your hand up and ask for help, and knowing that you're not afraid. There is awareness out there, and that people will accept that the way you are and what you need. I think that's important. And I think as a society, we have to remove that taboo. We have to remove that stigma, because our kids will not do that. They're afraid. And we have to remove that fear. So by talking about it as much as we can, introducing it to our schools, into our churches, into our youth groups, that'll give them the courage to put their hands up and ask for help.
To normalise it. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
What are some influences, potentially negative influences, that can impact our mental health, particularly in the younger generation?
First thing that comes to mind is social media. Social media is affecting our kids on so many different levels, and negatively, very negatively, socially, emotionally, physically. All these things are coming in. It's the fact that they don't even go out and meet and talk to other people. If they pick up the phone, they're out at a restaurant, instead of sitting at the table conversing, they're on their phones. They don't meet with their friends anymore. They just SMS. So they're not getting out socially, so they're isolating themselves. And also they're on the phone, on computers, hours and hours a day. They don't go out to exercise. Without exercise, it's not good physically for them as well. It's not good mentally. Social media has negative influences on them. the way they think of themselves.
Body image.
Body image, thank you. They'd see on social media all these beautiful people with beautiful lives and beautiful figures, and why can't we be like them? And I'm not happy with my life. A lot of the young girls become anorexic because they want to carry this, find this unachievable body image. It's also not good for the young males. Okay, they're not so much body image, but a lot of them are being radicalised by what they see on social media. There's a lot of violence. There's a lot of negativity and religious and complications that they bring into their lives, and it changes their mental life. Also, the World Health Organization has actually stated that social media is actually affecting the children's brains. There's certain parts of the brain that don't develop properly because of the many hours they spend. And you see from a young age, Yanni, my 4-year-old knows how to navigate tablets and computers, and I have no idea how to handle it. Not good for them. Not good.
You get out of control is the issue.
Very out of control. When you're on it 6, 7, 8 hours a day, and you don't know what they're at. The parents can't monitor what sites they're at and what they're doing. There's also gambling and all these things on social medias as well.
Do you think socials provide unrealistic expectations to our youth?
Yes, very much so. Perfect lives, perfect bodies,
But that's not.
perfect holidays. Everything's got to be, better than everybody else's. It's competition to be the best. This is fantasy. This is not real world. And if you're living in a fantasy world, then you're not be able to cope in the real world.
It's a matter of us not having that skewed perception, which I think it can be very easy to fall into a trap when we're spending so much time focused on.
It is a skewed perception, and we're not socialising, so we're losing those socialising skills. During COVID, when the kids were locked up in their houses all those years, months and months, they didn't get out to go to school, they didn't get out to socialise. They're forgetting how to talk to each other, how to bounce off with others, interact, interact with other people, and that's a social skill that's being lost as well.
So it's about moderation, I think, is key as well. If we are going to engage in that sort of thing, it's difficult to tell teenagers to avoid it completely, but I think making sure that we're moderated in our activities and being mindful of what we're viewing.
Mindful, very mindful. We should be able to see what our kids are accessing. But the government is trying to stay, not supposed to be on social media. I think from 16 or 18, the government's trying to bring that in and trying to take phones away from the kids in the schools. Moderation, definitely moderation. And I think there should be an age limit. I don't think young minds are capable of accessing that information and processing it properly. And it affects them. Whatever they pick up from that age, I think mental health starts way before the teenagers. I've had children as young as 8 and 9 that have developing mental health issues. And this is all from social media.
As a developing mind and having that constant dopamine hit,
yes,
which is very easy on social
and
media.
And the violence and everything's on TV. They're desensitised to the violence. My children see so much blood and guts everywhere. They're desensitised to it. They don't care. They have lost a lot of feeling.
And parents should be vigilant.
Very vigilant. Kids can get onto sites that are not acceptable at all. We're talking about the radicalisation and the sites with sexual connotations and things like that. And even gambling has been brought into computers games. So children are introduced to that at an early age. That's an addiction too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think social media is an addiction, and it has to be in moderation, like smoking, drinking and everything else.
Even in-app purchases. So a lot of freemium games, they call them, they're for free, but you can purchase inside the app. A lot of kids just click buy, with their parents' card attached to the phone, and they don't even know it. But
my grandkids did that to my son. He came in, he had hundreds of dollars.
So that's a form of gambling.
Yeah, it is.
Because it's addictive, and again, you want that hit that you keep going for more and more and more and trying to get that next level.
Exactly. And even adults have such a problem with addiction with gambling at the moment. I think Australia is one of the most gambling capitals in the world. We're hopeless. And it's on TV, it's on radio, it's on everything. So it's social media. It's just sandblasting us with all this negativity.
We're trying to help our youth in the community here. We've got our youth fellowship, and those outlets could be more beneficial, would you say? Having that community around you to spend time as youth and having those support networks of other youth and other young people.
We grew up without computers. We grew up without phones. We had people and the contact with people. And yes, getting kids into youth groups and having them socialise and interact with human beings that are real and not fantasy, most important because we're losing those skills.
Real life.
Our kids are growing up in a world that's not a good one.
Now, I want to end with a couple hopeful questions. So the second last one is, what is hope to you?
Hope. Hope to me, I lost my hope years ago. I lost it. When I found life again, when I found I could look at a sunset and appreciate and find beauty in life again, when I found that I could love and live again and find happiness, that to me was hope. So hope to me is to be able to invest in life, to live life, to be able to find love and to be loved and cared, to find my faith and to have that strength in me, and to know that at the end we're going to be all together again. That to me is hope.
And you can get through it.
And I can get through it, yes. And that's the only thing that's got me through, I think. I don't think it was anything else other than that hope that I had and the strength I had from my faith.
And that's, for many people, that could be a real pillar to getting through, those difficult moments.
Definitely, definitely. Because when my son took his own life, our family imploded. That my family couldn't deal with my mental health. They couldn't deal with my grief. And we couldn't support each other. And I turned to the church for help, and I turned to organisations for help, because if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't be here. So we need to help. We need to open up to each other. We need to understand and accept each other and to offer that love and support, because that's something I never had, and it almost cost me my life. So,
and now finally, this is a question we ask everyone. It's the last one.
I could go on all night.
No. We have a part 2. What is your wish for humanity?
Wish for humanity?
Yes.
I want to be peace in the world. I want people to love and care for each other. I want no more wars, no more starvations or famine or suffering. I want a utopia, where everyone lives together and there's love and care and faith, and I don't see it happening, but no borders. No, I'm not Palestinian, or I'm not this, or I'm not that. Sorry to mention that, but this is what's been going on. I don't want all this segregation. We're all one mankind. We're all humans. We're all under God. He would want us to live in love and peace, and to treat everyone the way we want ourselves to be treated, and that's important. If we knew that, then we wouldn't be treating other people with discrimination.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. That was a lovely way to end it. And we are so grateful to have you here with us and for sharing those really important messages that I think a lot of people really will take note of and be able to hear it and, break down those walls that we haven't broken down before. So I appreciate it.
Thank you, Yanni. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and talk. And if I can just do one more thing, because I didn't do it before, that is my son. And that is the last photo we took together at a wedding. And we were very happy that night, and it was the last night that I knew true happiness and peace that night. He was a lovely boy. His hair was a bit long.
It was.
But he was a lovely boy. And wow. I've carried that photo with me to every single presentation. Wow. For me, this is my tattoo. The way I show people to bring that emotional message to life, because that could be any mother and that could be any son. You're putting a face on a condition and you're normalising it. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And earlier you did take a note, and yes, this is for you. So this is a small token of our appreciation. Just something
Yanni,
small
thank
for you.
You so much.
Not
I
a problem
appreciate it. That's beautiful. That's really lovely.
No,
I forgot your chocolates, so I'm really sorry.
I'll be waiting for him.
Next time. Part 2? We're doing part 2?
I think so. I think it's very helpful. I think it'd be very useful to, hit those topics that we've hit today in more detail. So I'm sure you have a lot more to share that can help many people.
People need to hear it, and not just from me. We need to get that message out there. But this is beautiful. Thank you very much. God bless you, and God bless everyone. I hope you have had a good night and you've learnt something tonight from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you for listening to this episode of our Pearls of Wisdom project. As per usual, we're very, very grateful to have Katrina here with us and for you to watch. And We will be outside the church if you did want to come and have a conversation with us on our little table outside church after Sundays. If you want to be part of one of these interviews, we'd love to have you. Otherwise, we have our Orthodox Cafe, which occurs every second Friday night. We have the young adults downstairs and the adults upstairs, as well as Sundays after church. We have a little Bible study and talks as well. So otherwise, thank you for tuning in and hopefully see you in the next episode.
God bless.